Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Gopi Janna Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivana Dari Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Prabhupada Asta Terasata Sri Srimad. His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki. Ananta Gauta Vaishnavani ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Maya Purnavidhan Ki Jai. Gangamaya Ki Jai. Jamunamaya Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Somaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Go Premanandi. All glorious summer devotees. All glorious summer devotees. All glorious summer devotees. All glorious Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Can we just chant all day?
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, Text number 7. Yada na pashyati ayata guneham swarte pramata sahasa vipaschit gata smritir vindati tatra tapan asadya maitunyam agharam agya yadana pasyayatha gunevyam svarte pramata sahasa vipaschit gotasmitir avindati tattatapan asadya maitunyam agaram agya yadana pasya ganeham svarte pramata sahasavi paschit gotasmitir vindati tattatapan asadya maitunyam agharam magya yadana pasyat yayatha guneham svarte pramata sahasa paschit gotasmitir vindati tattatapan asadya maitunyam agharam agya yadana pasyat yayatha guneham svarte pramata sahasa paschit asadya maitunyam agharam agya yadana pasyat yayatha guneham Kitasmitir vindati tattatapan yadana pasyat yayatha yada, when, na, not, pashyati, sees, ayata, unnecessary, guna iham, endeavor to satisfy the senses, svarte, in self-interest. Pramata, mad. Sahasa, very soon. Vipaschit, even one advanced in knowledge. Gotasmritihi, being forgetful. Vindati, gets. Tatra, there. Tapan, material miseries. Asadya, getting. Maitunyam, based on sexual intercourse. Agharam, a home. Agya, being foolish. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada ki. Even though one may be very learned and wise, he is mad if he does not understand that the endeavor for sense gratification is a useless waste of time. That'd be pretty shocking for a lot of people to hear in this world. Being forgetful of his own interests, he tries to be happy in the material world, centering his interest around his home, which is based on sexual intercourse and which brings him all kinds of material miseries. In this way, one is no better than a foolish animal. Lord Shavda is pretty heavy. Yeah. And the next verse is another heavy one. Yeah. Actually, Prabhupada said these verses are all for sannyasis. Yeah. Purport. In the lowest stage of devotional life, one is not an unalloyed devotee. Anyābhilāṣitā-śūnyaṁ, jñāna-karmādy-anāvṛtam. Madhya 19:167. To be an unalloyed devotee, one must be freed from all material miseries or desires and untouched by fruitive activity and speculative knowledge. On the lower platform, one may sometimes be interested in philosophical speculation with a tinge of devotion. However, at that stage, one is still interested in sense gratification and is contaminated by the modes of material nature. The influence of Maya is so strong that even a person advanced in knowledge actually forgets that he is Krishna's eternal servant. Therefore, he remains satisfied in his household life, which is centered around sexual intercourse. Conceding to a life of sex, he agrees to suffer all kinds of material miseries. Due to ignorance, one is thus bound by the chain of material laws. Om jñāna-timirandasya jñānanjana salakaya chaksun militam jena tasmai Sri Gurave namaha mukam kotavācalam pangum langhayate gurim yatkripa tadaham bande Shri Gurum dinataranam vancha kalpatibhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Here it's mentioned that one may be very learned and wise, is mad if he does not understand that the endeavor of sense gratification is a useless waste of time. So what to speak of the ordinary person here? It's saying even someone who is very learned and wise. So what to speak of the ordinary person in this world that don't understand what is actually important. Nate badhu svartha gating hi Vishnu durasya ye bhayarthamaya andhayatanya upadiyamana te pisha tram rudhamni badha. That they don't know what is actually valuable. They're entrapped by material consciousness and do not know their real self-interest. They don't know that what is actually valuable is to engage in devotional service. This is what is actually valuable. Otherwise, they're just they're wasting their time engaging in so many material activities. And how valuable is time? Very valuable. priceless. As Chanaka Pandit says, that you can't buy back even a moment of time with millions of dollars. But so many people are wasting this valuable human form of life and just playing games, on the internet, just reading the news. Prabhupada said, my disciples, they don't read the newspapers. It's all the same thing, chewing the chewed. So many ways people are wasting this valuable human form of life. Fortunately, we've been given direction by Krishna and by Srila Prabhupada, by which we can utilize our time properly. Because the human form of life, it's such an important form of life by which we can learn and grow in our spiritual life. Prahlad Maharaj, he says, Matir ne Krishna purtasvatova mito yeti grahapatana adantagobir visitam tamishram puna punascharvata charvana. Because of their uncontrolled senses, people too addicted to materialistic life that make progress toward a hellish condition of life and continually chew that which has already been chewed. Their inclinations toward Krishna are never woken by their own endeavor, by the endeavor of others, nor by a combination of both. So this is a powerful statement by Prahlad Maharaj. And people, they're addicted to material life, and they can't imagine giving it up. We also were addicted, more or less, to material life. Now we're trying to give up that addiction and become addicted to Krishna. Better to be addicted to Krishna. Better be addicted to serving Krishna, thinking of Krishna, serving Krishna's devotees, and get addicted to this. It's very good. But Maya is so powerful. Like I remember there was one devotee in Miami, is a nice devotee, he's a very Prabhupada disciple. But he had some difficulty and he left and married a non-devotee lady. And I was speaking to him sometime later, and trying to encourage him to engage in devotional service. And he quoted this verse, Matir Krishna Puratasvatova, that by my own endeavor, by the endeavor of you, I may take it, I may not. Most likely I won't. Maya it's amazing. I mean, I was amazed. He was one of the nicest devotees. But Maya is so powerful. So, yeah, we have to try to become addicted to Krishna. It's like there's that amazing conversation with Prabhupada and John Yoko and George Harrison. They were challenging Prabhupada that, you have your Bhagavad Gita, but there's so many translations of the Bhagavad Gita, so why is yours special? Challenging. So they were going back and forth, and finally Syamasundar, he said you had to find out who's the most addicted to Krishna. And that ended the conversation. Prabhupada's addicted to Krishna. Just like they had the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. That was their first guru, and they found that he was having an affair with his secretary. So he wasn't addicted to Krishna. He was still addicted to sense gratification. But Prabhupada, they could see Prabhupada, he's living a pure life. He's got nice, sincere devotees. So Prabhupada, they could say, oh, yeah, good point. All right. And they actually stayed with John in this estate there. So yeah, this is the goal, to become addicted to Krishna. So the mind, the intelligence is bewildered by these modes of material nature. So if we become strong spiritually by this hearing and chanting, then this will purify the intelligence, this will purify the mind. just like it's said in the Bhagavad Gita, that above gross matter, or above the gross matter is the senses, right? Above the senses is the mind. Above the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul. So if we become strong spiritually, then the intelligence gets purified. The mind gets purified. Yeah. And we become addicted to Krishna. So therefore we're doing all this hearing and chanting to purify the soul, to purify the mind, purify the intelligence. And when we're completely purified, then Krishna's pleased, and we're pleased. There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna, he says, when the embodied living being controls his nature and mentally renounces all material actions, he lives happily in the city of 9 gates. So the body, it's like it's a city. There's these 9 gates, you know, the 2 eyes and the mouth and 2 ears, and nostrils and genitals, anus. So this is the 9 gates. And we think that, actually Prabhupada mentions that in the body, the living entity thinks he's the king in the city. But actually, who's the proprietor? Who's the proprietor of the city? Krishna. He's the proprietor. He owns everything. We're like renting out this apartment or the body due to our past karma. You know, everybody gets a body according to their karma. So we're kind of using this body due to our past karma. And actually the goal of the human form of life is to utilize this body in the service of Krishna. To utilize our mind, utilize our senses, everything in the service of Krishna. Now we're thinking that we're the enjoyer of this body, the proprietor of the body. But yeah, this is just, it's an illusion. He thinks that reality is enjoying the senses, especially this the sex desire. It's a prominent attachment that the living entity has in the material world. Focus so much on this. Therefore, throughout the society, throughout the world, you know, people are, with the advertisements and everything. Practically everything is advertised with a girl. Even, you know, tools or something. You know? Just because it's an attractive feature in this world. But Prabhupada tells an interesting story of liquid beauty. There was a prince that was going around this province there, and he went to when he was going through one village, and he saw this very attractive lady. And he stopped his horse and went over to her, and, "Oh, you're a very attractive young lady. I'm a prince." As Prabhupada said, he wooed her. Tried to attract her to him. "Please come with me. I'm a prince. You'll live, you know, very luxuriously. I have a palace. You could leave this simple village. You could live a real life of pleasure." And she said, No, that's okay. I'm happy." And he continued trying to coax her to come with him. And she decided she wanted to teach the guy a lesson. So she said, "Okay, come back in 2 days, and I'll go with you." And he was very happy. "Oh, good. Okay, I'll be back in 2 days." So she was a devotee. So she wanted to teach this guy a good lesson. So she took all these laxatives, and she's passed stool and urine and vomited in 2 days. And then he came after that period. He knocked on the door. She came to the door. Hello, is the lady of the house here? And she said, I'm the lady of the house here. No, but there's a very beautiful lady here that I come to take. Oh, I'm that beautiful lady. Oh, yeah, wait a second. I mean, don't take any offense, but you're not the beautiful lady I was coming to get. You know? She said, no, I'm the same. And do you want me to show you the ingredients that separated me from that beauty? What are you talking about? Yeah, come with me. And she took him to the room where the stool and the vomit and the urine. She said, that's the source of my beauty right there. I took some laxatives and there it is. You know, this is what you're so attracted to. So he got a very good lesson there. Now, what is this body? It's not. If you look on the inside, it's not very attractive. Maya makes it look attractive on the outside. Yeah. But what's actually attractive is the soul. See, this lady was actually very attractive, even with her emaciated body, because she was a devotee. But he couldn't see that. He was just interested in the external. So the unfortunate guy, he should have actually taken her. Hey, this person's a very realized person. He should have taken her. Oh, you're very devoted to Krishna. You have such realization. But he didn't, of course, because he was still interested in the body. So, yeah. This is due to ignorance. This last sentence here, it's interesting. The Prabhupada says, due to ignorance, one is thus bound by the chain of material laws. So what are those material laws? The laws of karma. Yeah, the laws of karma. A lot of people don't believe in this karma. It's like Prabhupada when he was in the Scottish Church's college. There were Christians, you know, and he challenged this idea of karma. And his challenge was, who's the witness? If there's karma, someone's seen the activities by which he gets a reaction for his actions. Who's the witness? I mean, it's amazing. They don't even understand that there's a God watching. I mean, hello. They supposed to believe in God. I mean, God, that means he knows everything. He's omnipresent, omnipotent. He knows everything. But he couldn't even, he's a professor, intelligent guy, a Christian. Couldn't even grasp this simple thing that God's watching. So yeah, Krishna's watching everything. And everybody is bound by their activities. And for every sinful activity that people engage in, they're increasing the chains, as it's said here. One is bound by the chain of material laws. So every sinful activity people do, they're becoming more and more chained, bound. Nobody wants to be chained. I mean, I've never been chained before. I guess it used to happen in the old days. You get chained. But imagine how uncomfortable it'd be, especially you get a lot of chains. You can't move. But people are chained up by the laws of karma, by all their sinful activity. But if one surrenders to Krishna, then all the chains are broken, and one is free to engage in devotional service. So this is the goal, to become free of the modes of material nature. Daivihesa ganamai. Mama maya dratya, mama viye papadyante, maya metam tarantite. That this three modes of material nature is very difficult to overcome. But if one surrenders to Krishna, then Krishna takes the chains away. Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to read this. Prabhupada put this very famous verse in the purport, and I wanted to read this verse It's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's such an important verse. One of the most important verses. Rupa Goswami. When first class devotional service develops, one must be devoid of all material desires, knowledge obtained by monistic philosophy, and fruit of action. The devotee must constantly serve Krishna favorably as Krishna desires. Sometimes devotees want to serve Krishna as they desire. Just like there's devotional service in the mode of ignorance. And one might ask, well, what would that be? Devotional service in the mode of ignorance. Well, there's an example of some devotees. This is back in the early 70s. Previous to their becoming devotees, they were drug dealers. And they were making a lot of money. So when they joined the movement, they could see that the temple needs money. So they thought, well, we'll just make a lot of money. Make some, sell some drugs and make some money for the temple. And they did. They made a lot of money, gave it to the temple. Temple was happy, didn't know where the money came from. And then they had extra money. They were sending money to Prabhupada. And one devotee said, Prabhupada, this money that is being received, it's from selling drugs. It's illegal. And Prabhupada said, tell them to stop. This will leave a bad impression, especially if they get caught. I mean, we don't do illegal things. So this is an example of devotional service. They were doing it for Krishna. They were giving the money to Krishna. They weren't doing it for their own material sense gratification. That's devotional service in the mode of ignorance. There's mode of passion, devotional service in the mode of passion, where you're doing devotional service just like someone might be distributing books, but they're doing it just to get some recognition, some fame. Mode of goodness, devotional service in the mode of goodness. What's an example of devotional service in the mode of goodness? Who can say devotional service in the mode of goodness? What's an example, Javeda? Cleaning your room. But you could be cleaning your room to please Krishna. So that would be pure devotional service. That wouldn't be in the mode of goodness. That wouldn't be in the mode of goodness, would it? I mean, you're doing it for Krishna. Yes.
Maybe trying to preach to non-receptive people.
Preaching to non-receptive people. You're preaching the message of Krishna, but to non-receptive people.
Hare
Krishna Prabhu, can you please use the microphone?
So, yeah, devotional service, and now it gets a little subtle now. Devotional service in the mode of goodness, yes.
Again, Bob's a volunteer now at the food bank, so that's in the mode of goodness. It's not necessarily prashadam, but he's giving charitable food to people that need it. So it's like charitable acts.
The store is giving us bhoga that we can use in the service of Krishna. So would this be devotional service? Well, they don't know that this is a gyatu sakriti. They don't know they're even engaging in devotional service.
But what about his activities, giving food to the people at the food bank? Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Charitable acts.
Bob is getting bhoga and offering it to Krishna.
Bhoga Bob.
I work in the food bank.
Food bank.
Yeah, and I distribute food to non-devotees.
Okay, so that would be devotional service in the mode of goodness. Sure.
Jai.
You're not trying to get any name and fame, and you're just doing it for Krishna, for the benefit of. Yeah, that would be devotional service in the mode of goodness. Or also...
devotional service in the mood of goodness is related to being regulated.
Okay, very good. And also one may be doing, just like we're all doing service here in the temple, devotees are in the kitchen, they're cooking now, and we're also distributing books and doing so many services. We may not be doing it with a pure intention to please Krishna, but we're trying to engage in devotional service. So this is also, it's mode of goodness. Yeah. So, but the goal is to engage in unalloyed, uninterrupted, pure devotional service, just thinking of Krishna constantly. So that might be one of the things that's missing in many of us, and myself, I can say, that we're not constantly thinking of Krishna, doing it for Krishna, thinking of doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. This is where some of us may be lacking, and this is the goal, where whatever we're doing, we're always thinking of Krishna, trying to, and therefore it's in this purport, Prabhupada goes on, he mentions that. As we understand from the Bhagavad Gita, 934 and 1865, Manmana Bhava Manmukta, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thou shalt come to me without fail. I promise you this because you're my very dear friend. So Prabhupada brings up that point. Always thinking of Krishna. We're doing service, but while we're doing the service, to always think of Krishna. This is the challenge. This is the big challenge. Yeah. The mind is thinking of Krishna. Yeah. The Supreme Personality of Godhead wants everyone to think of Him always. Manmana Bhava Madbhakta. Everyone should become His devotee, not the devotee of a demigod. Everyone should engage in His devotional service, including archana, deity worship, in the temple. Manmana Bhava Madbhakta Majjajimam Namaskuru. Everyone should offer obeisances from moment to moment to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There was one devotee, Raghunath Das Goswami. He would pay obeisances to Krishna and the devotees 2,000 times a day. A lot of worship. These are the desires of the Supreme Lord, and one who fulfills his desires favorably is actually a pure devotee. Krishna wants everyone to surrender unto Him. And devotional service means preaching all over the world. The Lord says openly in the Bhagavad Gita, 1869, Nacha tasman manushyesu kaschin me priyakritama. One who preaches the gospel of the Bhagavad Gita for the benefit of all is most dear to Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord so that human society can be perfectly organized from all angles of vision. Politically, socially, economically, philosophically, and religiously. From any point of view, human society can be reformed by the Krishna consciousness movement. Therefore, one who spreads this philosophy of Krishna consciousness for the benefit of all conditioned souls in the universe is perfect in pure devotional service. The criterion is that a devotee must know that Krishna has to know what Krishna wants him to do. This understanding can be achieved through the medium of a spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami advises Adau Gurvashrayam. One who is serious in wanting to render a pure devotional service to the Lord must take shelter of a spiritual master who comes in the disciplic succession from Krishna. Evam parampara praptam imam rajar sayo vidhu. Bhagavad Gita 4.2. Without accepting a bona fide spiritual master coming in the disciplic succession, one cannot find out the real purpose of devotional service. Therefore, one has to accept the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and agree to be directed by him. Shouldn't argue with the spiritual master. There's one amazing pastime with Prabhupada. He was trying to get one sannyasi to go to Japan and preach. But he had already made plans to go to New York City and preach. He had already been preaching in foreign countries for many years. And he wanted to go to America and preach. But Prabhupada was asking him, you go to Japan. And he was arguing, oh, Prabhupada, I've been preaching in foreign countries so many years. I want to preach in a place where people speak my language. No, I want you to go to Japan. And he wouldn't surrender. And Prabhupada finally said, you're so renounced that you renounce the order of your spiritual master. And then he said, all right, Prabhupada. He surrendered. He went to Japan and preached. So, yeah, we have to follow the order of the spiritual master. If we please the spiritual master, then Krishna is pleased. Just like someone probably gives the example, there might be some big company, big company. Now, the CEO, he doesn't know what everybody is doing because it's a big company. But there's the manager. If the manager is pleased, then the CEO, he finds out that this person is good. He finds out from the manager. So similarly, the spiritual master, if we please the spiritual master, then Krishna is pleased. Yeah. Krishna is pleased if we just please the spiritual master. Yeah. The first business of a pure devotee is to satisfy his spiritual master, whose only business is to spread Krishna consciousness. And if one can satisfy the spiritual master, Krishna is automatically satisfied. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasada. This is the success of devotional service. This is the meaning of the word anukulyena. That is, favorable devotional service to the Lord. So there's favorable, anukulyena krishnanu silanam bhakti, and then there's unfavorable. Yeah. So from reading Srila Prabhupada's books, we learn what is favorable and what is unfavorable. He said, everything is in my books. Yeah. There's the Vani and there's the Vapu. And Prabhupada said, so many people, they want to get my Vapu, but someone may be very close to me and not following my instructions. Yeah. And someone may be on the other side of the planet, and he's very strictly following my instructions. He's closer to me than the person that's sitting right next to me. Yeah. The devotee that's sitting right next to me, if he's not following. So, to follow the instructions of the spiritual master is the most important thing that we have to do. So that's favorable. And then unfavorable is to disobey the orders of the spiritual master. And that's one of the offenses to chanting the holy name, to disobey the order of the spiritual master. Anukulyena krishnana silanam bhakti-rutama. This is the success of devotional service. This is the meaning of the word anukulyena. That is favorable for devotional service. A devotee has no plans other than those for the Lord's service. He is not interested in attaining success in mundane activities. Just like it is said that we have our plan and Krishna has his plan. But Krishna's plan is always the best plan. Our plan, can be questionable, right? He is not interested in attaining success in mundane activities. He simply wants success in the progress of devotional service. For a devotee, there cannot be worship of others or demigod worship. A pure devotee does not engage himself in such pseudo-devotional service. He is interested only in satisfying Krishna. if one lives only for the satisfaction of Krishna, it does not matter whether he belongs to this order of life or that order of life. In other words, one may be a sannyasi, one may be a grihasta or a brahmachari, grihasta. Doesn't matter. If one is living for the satisfaction of Krishna, then Krishna is pleased. One's only business should be to satisfy Krishna. This process is completely manifested in the activities of the Krishna consciousness movement. It has been actually proved that the entire world can accept devotional service without failure. Just like all over the world. Even when Prabhupada was here, so many people were joining. Yeah. All over the world. And therefore he said, this is the real United Nations. Yeah. This is the real United Nations. Yeah. They created this United Nations, but the flags are still increasing. So how is it united? But Prabhupada, by his purity, was getting people from all different countries to join and happily engage in devotional service. Just like now, it's still happening in this Russia and Ukraine. It's not as big as it was. There's still a war going on there. But and therefore the Ukrainians and the Russians, there's some envy there, some friction. But the devotees, the Ukrainian devotees and the Russian devotees, they're still happily engaged in devotional service, engaged in devotional service together, side by side. So this is the proof of the United Nations. And by everybody coming together as spirit souls, servants of Krishna, then it's united. And then Prabhupada says, one simply has to follow the instructions of the representative of Krishna. And of course Prabhupada's the best representative, the founder Acharya. And we're getting so many instructions by Prabhupada in his books. An ocean of instructions that are guidelines. Actually these books are guidelines on how to get home, how to go back home, back to Godhead. So we're so fortunate to have all these instructions, all these guidelines by Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. So, is there any question?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Vijaya Krishna Prabhu.
May I?
You may.
Thank you very much, Vijay Prabhu, my humble obeisances. The quote from the purport is, quote, "The influence of Maya is so strong that even a person advanced in knowledge actually forgets that he is Krishna's eternal servant," end quote. So my question is, after being defeated by Maya, what is it that the advanced devotee should be there doing in relation to his spiritual life? Should he give up the process entirely out of shame, feeling ashamed, or is it that he should be, after falling down, is it that he should be there getting up in order to go on walking on the difficult, almost impossible path related to going back home, back to Godhead?
Well, there was an instance where a very senior sannyasi had fallen down, and another sannyasi started telling other devotees about his fall down. And Prabhupada heard about this and he was furious. He was so upset because now you've spilled all this about how he fell down, and now he's going to be embarrassed and he may never come back. Prabhupada was so upset. And Prabhupada encouraged the sannyasi to come back. He gave the example. It's there in the Bhagavatam, in one purport, that you may not be able to serve Krishna in one way, but you could serve Krishna in another way. Just like the crocodile, he can live very nicely in the water. So he lives in the water. And the elephant, he lives comfortably outside of the water. So he lives outside of the water. So you may not be able to serve Krishna in one order of life, but that doesn't mean you stop your devotional service. You continue serving Krishna, but in another order of life. And this devotee, by Prabhupada's compassion and by his purity, he convinced this devotee to continue on in devotional service, and he did. He continued on, engaged in devotional service. Yeah. So, yeah, the material world, it's such a dangerous place. Prabhupada said at any time any of us can fall down because Maya is so powerful. We're not so strong. Yeah. So we have to be very careful that we not fall down. But even if we do, then stand up and continue on. And Prabhupada gives the example just like a child, a little baby. He's trying to walk and he takes a few steps and falls down. Then he gets up and he walks again and falls down a few steps later. But he gets up and then eventually he's able to walk. So it's like that. Sometimes devotees, they have difficulty. So don't stay down and just absorb yourself in Maya. Get up and give it another shot. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any other questions or comments?
Be a minute. This is spoken of in the Shastra, the famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita, Abhishek Suracharo, that if even if one performs the most abominable activity, if he still has faith and he wants to be a devotee and he continues in devotion, then very quickly Krishna can purify. And also in the Bhagavatam there's a verse like that.
Thank you.
So you should never stop, just because something happened. You should always continue chanting, praying, and
yeah, it's amazing because Krishna says that even when one commits the most abominable activities, if he's engaged in devotional service, he's understood to be saintly, a sadhu. Yeah, amazing. So even the most abominable activity. I mean, just like this sannyasi, he fell down with the lady. That's abominable. But if he picks himself up and engages in devotional service, he's considered saintly. And the people who criticize, Krishna's not pleased. Actually, it's even mentioned in that purport. Krishna's not pleased. Those who deride someone who has had difficulty but then picks himself up, Krishna's not pleased at all. We have to be free of this envy, criticism. Yeah. Yes, Balaram Prabhu.
Yeah, it's amazing too. Prabhupada would sometimes, like in the Nectar of Instruction, he talks about a sadhu, a saintly person, and a lot of the times Prabhupada may quote Tatikshva Karunaka, tolerant, merciful. But in some cases, Prabhupada, to describe a sadhu, he'd actually quote this verse, Apichet Siddharachayo Bhajte Mamanani Bhaks. Oh, he's a sadhu, who continues.
Wow.
So interesting. But I was going to ask about this example or this idea that you mentioned today of chewing the chewed. Because in some ways it's like, okay, the idea is, all right, the person's been engaging in the same enjoyment over and over and over again, and although there's not much there, they're still going for it. But like sometimes devotees, they give the example of like, in this regard, they talk about like bubble gum. You chew some bubble gum, and then eventually, everybody's here has had bubble gum, I'm sure, probably, right? You chew some bubble gum, and then eventually all the juice is out, and then it's like it's useless. You just throw it away. Or sometimes devotees give the example of like sugar cane. You chew on some sugar cane, then it's useless. So, in regards to that, I mean, if someone's engaging in enjoyment and then like all the juice has got, all from the bubble gum or from the sugar cane, I mean, isn't that like a complete state of like who would do that? In other words, who would pick up an old piece of bubble gum and chew on it, or old sugar cane.
Poor people.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that like a state of craziness or madness? So maybe you could comment on that.
Yeah, madness. Yeah, nunam pramatā kurute vikarma. Yeah.
But with these things, there's like no enjoyment there. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you're just chewing. Like,
Well, compared to pure devotional service, even this so-called material enjoyment, it's nothing.
yeah,
It's nothing. And therefore, Jamunacharya, he says, when I think of this, I mean, he was engaged in so much sexual activity. This is the main pleasure in the material world. He just curled his lips and just disgusting. Because the real pleasure, the highest pleasure, people don't know about. It's like that, just chewing gum that has no sugar in it, no taste in it, or it's nothing compared to the pleasure of pure devotional service. It's just like disgusting. There's no real pleasure there. And that's what Prabhupada says. There's no pleasure in the material world. They think that because they haven't experienced the real pleasure. You know, so that's something to look forward to. That real pleasure of devotional service, pure devotional service. I mean, it's so pleasurable. These devotees, their hair stands on end, tears flow from their eyes, they're shivering, there's so much ecstasy. Does anybody feel that when they're having sex? You know, it's disgusting. You know, it's actually smelly and disgusting. Dravida has something to say.
Oh yeah, I was also just going to mention
Oh yeah, go ahead,
sorry,
Paula.
that it's Soul's birthday here. So
It's Soul's birthday. Happy birthday, Bhakti Soul.
So if everybody could please bless him and wish him well on his birthday. Also, Nanta Chaitanya Prabhu, he's the one up in San Francisco, that devotee there. He's the one who gave Saul a book here in San
Oh,
Diego.
yeah?
Invited him to the temple. So
Oh, good. Yeah.
Nanta Chaitanya.
Soul is doing so many nice services here. It's good.
Anyways, I just wanted-
By the way, that reminds me, I have something for you to do after this.
Maybe one final thing, and
Yes.
that question about how could one still try to chew the chewed.
Yeah.
You know, well, there's some hint of, you know, there may be some, you know, sugar left in the you know, then you pick it up. Oh, yeah, there's something here. So the whole thing is in that verse that you quoted, which is where the Punak Punas comes in. Prahlad is describing to his father, you know, Mati Krishna, that you can't become Krishna conscious by your own efforts or anything. If you've taken a vow to try to enjoy in family life, your senses are out of control, adanta gobi and vishatakta misram. You're in complete ignorance. You're in darkness, and it's that madness that leads you to try to enjoy this and that. Take some drug. It's laced with fentanyl. You die or you do brain damage. I mean, this is the world we're living in now. People are trying so desperately to enjoy. They're going down these dark roads to misram. And so, you know, to try to give them just a hint of another kind of life, you know, through Krishna consciousness. You're going out and meeting people, you're chanting. Then it can save people by just saying, well, let me try that. I've tried everything else. Let me, you know, check this out. And they can be saved that way from, you know, millions of births of ignorance.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's...
Yeah, thank you. Bhakti Bob, go ahead. It's okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.